being able to talk to your kids and ask them questions without making them wrong. They may have opinions about your divorce or your situation as a parent that you may not want to hear. You may not like some of the things they say, but be willing to listen, because it's respecting them. They are little human beings who have feelings, and their feelings matter. And being able to say, I don't agree with you about this, but I hear what you said, and I'm sorry you were feeling that way, is very helpful for them to feel that they matter, that they count, that you respect them. Because too often kids don't get respected. And what happens very often is that they end up bullying other kids, because hurt people, as you know. And so kids who are mistreated at home will go on to mistreat other kids in the playground, in the schools, in their relationships and dating. And they've learned it somewhere. They're not born this way. They've learned it somewhere. So it all starts with us. And this isn't easy. Reaching out for help from therapists, from coaches, from people who have experience with the issues that you're dealing with can take years and years of pain off of your life that doesn't have to happen, because you could move ahead much more quickly.
Papaya! Hello all, and welcome to another episode of Transform Your Future with me, Eddie Isin, where I sit down with entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and high achievers as they identify areas I can improve on and guide me to further my self-improvement practice. For more information and insights, join the newsletter at transformyourfuture.com, where I write about reinvention, personal growth, and identity. We want to hear from you. Let us know how we can improve your listening experience. Please reach out to us through our website, your podcast app, comment, or just text me directly at 813-722-1417. I'm serious. We want to hear from you. In this episode, we are going to be focusing on divorce and how it seems to touch all of us. I am a child of divorce, and despite my best efforts, my children are also children of divorce. It is a common thread for the majority of us. Yet, it's something not discussed enough in social circles, making it often feel like a taboo subject. My guest today is the wonderful and authentic Rosalind Sedecca. I met her a couple of months ago. I really like her energy, and I was very much looking forward to getting her on the podcast. She is the founder of the Child-Centered Divorce Network and a highly respected divorce and co-parenting coach. Rosalind brings a wealth of knowledge and personal experience to our discussion, focusing on how parents can navigate the complexities of divorce while prioritizing their children's emotional and psychological well-being. Rosalind shares invaluable insights into the common pitfalls parents face during and after divorce and offers practical advice on how to avoid them. She emphasizes the critical need for children to feel loved and supported by both parents, regardless of the turmoil between them. We discuss the profound impact that parental behavior has on the children and the long-term consequences of exposing them to conflict. Rosalind also delves into the challenges of dating after divorce and how to approach new relationships thoughtfully, especially when children are involved. This episode is packed with actionable strategies and heartfelt advice aimed at helping parents create a nurturing environment for their children amidst the challenges of divorce. Join us as we explore how to transform a potentially traumatic experience into an opportunity for growth and positive change, with guidance from one of the leading experts in the field. Welcome to episode 22, Caught in the Crossfire, Protecting Kids from Divorce's Emotional Toll, featuring Rosalind Sedecca. So Rosalind, thank you so much for coming in and taking time with me to be on the Transform Your Future podcast. I really appreciate you showing up today. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's good to be with you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I've been looking forward to this. I want you to just kind of set us up here. Can you talk about your background with dealing with divorce and dealing with, especially focusing on the children and how we take care of our responsibility as parents going through a divorce.
Yes. So my name is Rosalind Sedecca, and I'm the founder of the Child-Centered Divorce Network. I'm a divorce and co-parenting coach, and I work exclusively with parents before, during, and long, long after divorce. So if you're divorcing and you don't have children, I don't care what kind of craziness you and your ex create in your lives. But when innocent children are involved, that's when I step in, because I want to make sure that both parents understand their responsibilities and the consequences of every decision they make and how it impacts children of different ages and different stages of life. And that's what I do. I do one-on-one coaching. I've also created several ebooks, e-courses, and programs. So I have lots of resources and materials to help parents so that they can make the best decisions regarding their children, and the children don't have to pay the price for the divorce.
So, in your experience with that, I mean, I could already see, because I went through a divorce, and I had a dysfunctional relationship, and I tried to manage it. I tried to work it. I tried to be there for her, to make things better, to support her. But at some point, no matter what I did, really wasn't getting anywhere. And so I had to deal with that. But my journey had to do a lot with me working on me first.
Yes.
And so that really, I would say I'm grateful for that relationship, because I have 3 beautiful kids with her. That's one thing. But the other reason is because really, if it wasn't for her and that situation that I had to go through and those challenges, I probably would have never changed to become the man that I really am. And I really like the man that I am today. So I must recognize that she was definitely instrumental in that happening, because I wouldn't have done a lot of the deep work that I did if it wasn't for that situation that I was in.
And that's true. Yes.
Yeah. But I certainly do understand that the parents, and sometimes even the families around the parents, have ways of influencing the children and the children's experience that may be rather negative. I know I've seen that happen, and there's certain thinking that the kids might have that you wish they didn't have, that kind of thinking, that they didn't think that way about stuff or didn't feel that way about things. What kind of issues do you see, actually? Let's talk about that. So for the kids, what kind of issues do you see come out of this for the kids when it's not managed, when people are not focused on trying to take them into consideration?
Well, that's such an important question. So what happens is that children are impacted emotionally and psychologically, as well as physically, from the divorce experience. And basically, all children need to feel loved and supported through every facet of this experience. And there's 2 things that they really need. They need to feel that they are loved by both of their parents, no matter what kind of craziness is going on between the parents, that both of the parents love them. And also that they are free to love both of their parents, that one parent isn't saying, your other parent is a bad person, you should only love me, and alienate them from the other parent, because it's very harmful and hurtful for children. So the first thing is for them to know that they're loved and can love, and that they have to understand that this is not their fault. No matter what's happening between the parents, even if you're fighting about the kids, it's not the kids' faults. The kids are always innocent. They didn't request to be part of this dynamic. It's happening to them. And so the kids have to be told often that none of this is your fault. This is adult stuff. This is between your 2 parents, and you're innocent. And they need to be reminded, because a lot of kids will take it on personally and think, maybe if I didn't fight with my brother, maybe if I had better grades in school, maybe if I didn't do this, my parents wouldn't be divorcing. And that's not the case. We also have to be very mindful of the fact that studies have shown that the most damaging thing you could do as parents is fight around the kids. It's the tension and stress of being around fighting parents that creates the most psychological and emotional harm to the kids. So if you have to fight, just fight when you're not around them. And And even in another room, if they hear you screaming at one another, that's not serving the purpose. You have to take care that your kids are away so that you could have your battles if you need to have them. But when the kids are around you, you want life to be as harmonious and smooth as possible for them. It's the gift you're giving to the kids.
Yes.
And you don't want to be pointing the finger at the other parent in front of the kids and saying, we wouldn't be getting a divorce if your mother didn't have an affair, if your father wasn't an alcoholic. All those things may be true, but it's not age appropriate, even for older teens, for you to be sharing adult information with them, because kids can't do anything to fix your situation. We can't fix our situations as adults.
Yeah.
So it puts too much of a burden on them. And when children are privy to adult information, they can't unhear it. Once they know it, they know it. And it robs them of their childhood. They're no longer innocent at 5 or 15. Suddenly they become little adults and they're trying to fix your problems. They can't fix your problems. And so if you keep those things in mind, you're giving them the gift of support and love and letting them know that this is our issue. And we want you to go through your childhood as smoothly and easily as possible. It's tough being a kid today. Life isn't easy for children when things are normal. So when you put the stress of the divorce on top of them, it's putting a lot of layers that we need to be very careful about, the way we talk to them, the way we support them, comfort them, let them know that they matter, that we care and love them, that things are going to work out okay because we, as your parents, are going to step up and make the best decisions for everyone in the family. And if we're mindful about that, the divorce doesn't have to be a negative experience. In many cases, life is easier and happier after divorce than before the divorce, because we want our kids to experience happy, loving relationships. And as role model, we have to keep that in mind.
Yeah. As you talk about these things, I just want to say that, again, from my personal experience, divorce was the hardest thing that I had to do. And part of that I don't talk about a lot is that my parents divorced. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that. I didn't want it. I probably, like you were just talking about, my mom shared things that were inappropriate with me during that whole thing. I identified with my father for some reason and felt that he was a victim in the whole situation. And so, and somehow I felt like I was supposed to keep it together, like it was my responsibility to keep them together.
Yes.
So because of all those things, I didn't want my children to be a product of divorce. I didn't want that to happen, but that is what happened. That is what I had to do. And actually the reason that I did it, the thing that was the impetus of everything was really how it was affecting my two youngest children. My older son was already, in his late teens, maybe almost 20. He was like 18, 19. But the other two were rather young. My daughter was 10 and my son was 12 or 13. So I saw how they were being affected by the inappropriate. I mean, I couldn't control the chaos. So the chaos was affecting them. And this was really important to me to do something about it. And, by the grace of God, I got the custody of the three kids so that they didn't have to live in chaos anymore and they can have stability.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. So, but I hear what you're saying. And I will say that I have also slipped at times, during that whole process where I probably did say some inappropriate things that the kids didn't need to hear or know, from my emotionality, at times, but I've tried to clean that all up and, stay focused on, what's important, and has to do with them knowing they are loved, they are taken care of. They have everything they need to succeed in life. And, their parents and the parents' failure of their marriage has nothing to do with anything about them and their future.
There you go. And that's such an important message. So your kids are getting the right message. They're feeling loved. They're feeling supported. And that makes all the difference. It's the energy around the kids that really is more important than the exact what you say. It's they're watching and learning from you, and they feel your love and your support. And that makes all the difference for them.
And when you were talking, you remind me of a great book I read many years ago. I've been in recovery for 36 years, going on 37 years now, from addiction. And many years ago, I think probably in the early 90s, maybe 92 or 3, I read this book called Stage 2 Recovery by Ernie Larson. And he opens up the story talking about how every child needs to love and be loved in return.
Yeah.
And they get that from their parents, right? So it doesn't. It's not exclusive to men with the men and women with the women. Sometimes it's
Right.
the opposite. But that from that, this is how we develop the dysfunctional behaviors, because at some point we start getting the messaging: in order to feel loved and get that love, I need to do this behavior, and then I get recognized from that behavior, and then we start setting up those dysfunctional behaviors that exist in our lives. And maybe when we're 40, we have these challenges in our life and these issues, and we trace it back that we realize we developed this behavior when we were a kid. That's how we survived those situations, but they don't serve us anymore. And we got to do the deep work of looking at that.
Yeah.
So it reminds me about
Described it
that.
very well, Eddie. That's exactly what happens in so many cases in our lives. And having the awareness, because everything starts with awareness. We can't do anything to change our lives or ourselves or make anything better for anyone if we don't start with the awareness and then look within. Because the answers are never just physical, plain things. The answers are always shifting from within, understanding who we are now and the possibilities of how we can transform our life, as you are so stating so eloquently all the time. Transforming our life takes inner work, but it's worth it because it's the greatest gift we could give to ourselves, and it's the greatest gift we could give to those we love.
Yes, absolutely. That's awesome. So let's just say that there are people who are either they are divorced, or they are thinking about divorce, or they're right in the middle of the chaos that they're looking at. What can you say to guide those people, maybe help them to become aware?
The most important thing is to remember that you are role models for your children. And we forget that in the chaos of things that happen in life that are bumpy for us. And we're having our own troubles working and coping with everything. But our kids are watching. So it's not what we lecture. You should do this. You should do. It's how we are. It's who we are. It's how we behave. That's what the kids pick up on. And so lying and saying you should do this when they're looking at their parents and their parents are putting each other down and fighting and belittling each other, criticizing each other. It's entirely incongruous, and kids are not learning anything wise. So you want to be really mindful of who you are, what you say, how you say it, and what you do. And being big enough to apologize as a parent is very important. Being able to say, I made a mistake. I should never have said that about your father. I should never have done that last year, because that created the problems that we're having now in getting a divorce. Telling your kids, owning things, because if you're able to own it and say, I'm sorry, I've learned, I'm different now, then it gives your kids permission to say, gee, I made a mistake, I'm sorry. They'll never be able to do that or say that if they're not hearing either of their parents doing that. So that's very important to remember we're role models, and keep in mind, we don't have to have all the answers. None of us are geniuses. We all make mistakes. But being able to say, thinking about it, I should never have said that or done that. I should have tried this instead. I'm sorry that hurt you. I'm sorry it caused you pain. Let's do things differently from now on. Being able to talk to your kids and ask them questions without making them wrong. They may have opinions about your divorce or your situation as a parent that you may not want to hear. You may not like some of the things they say, but be willing to listen, because it's respecting them They are little human beings who have feelings, and their feelings matter. And being able to say, I don't agree with you about this, but I hear what you said, and I'm sorry you were feeling that way, is very helpful for them to feel that they matter, that they count, that you respect them. Because too often kids don't get respected. And what happens very often is that they end up bullying other kids, because hurt people, as you know. And so kids who are mistreated at home will go on to mistreat other kids in the playground, in the schools, in their relationships and dating. And they've learned it somewhere. They're not born this way. They've learned it somewhere. So it all starts with us. And this isn't easy. Reaching out for help from therapists, from coaches, from people who have experience with the issues that you're dealing with can take years and years of pain off of your life that doesn't have to happen, because you could move ahead much more quickly and get guidance, and reminding your kids that I made mistakes, but I'm able to move forward. Let's do something differently. Have some family meetings and get opinions and get some agreements from kids. It's very hard to discipline children, as we all know. But if you sit down at the table and we make some agreements, and the kids are agreeing that we're going to do this or not going to do that, and put it in writing, they're much more accountable because they were part of it, rather than you just saying, this is the law, we're going to do this way and that way. When they're old enough to understand, and they are making the agreements with you and understanding why it's important to be mindful of how we treat one another, how we spend our money, how we honor our agreements with things, all of those kinds of issues, they're much more likely to step in line and be accountable than when they feel they're just getting rules placed on them. So all of these things empower kids to feel that they matter and that they count. And that helps children get through life a lot more easily with more confidence.
That's great. That's a lot. I want to go back a second, because you said so much. Really, there's a lot to unpack in there. But I was just thinking that obviously you speak very passionately about these topics. So I know you have a great passion. I'm just curious, what was it that motivated you to focus on the children, and how we need to take responsibility as parents, even though we're going through a difficult time and struggles, and usually kind of emotional, not to let that affect the children, how to separate our children from the marriage. What made you focus on that?
Well, thanks for asking. That really is important. I was married for close to 20 years, and the marriage was starting to go sour, and I was having a lot of just disagreements. My ex and I were growing apart. My son was 11 years old, and I finally realized that I had to do something, and that the divorce made the most sense. And it was the toughest decision I've ever made in my life. And it took me several years to make that decision, and going to therapy and a lot of other personal growth things to get to that point when I finally realized I had to do that. And my ex was a wonderful father. And so we were very lucky. The one thing we could agree on is loving our son, and neither one of us wanted to hurt him. And when you have that one thing between the parents, that's huge, because you could do a lot that way. So we learned how to co-parent. We got divorced. We learned how to communicate with each other, how to treat one another, how to be flexible with our son being in one house or the other house. And we raised him. He was 11 when we divorced. And one day when he was in his early 20s, a grown young man, he came to me out of the blue and he said, Ma, you and Daddy did a really good job with the divorce. I just wanted to thank you, because most of my friends whose parents divorced either hate their parents or are very angry at them. And I think you and Daddy really did a good job. And I was caught off guard and just in shock. but it became a transformative moment in my life. It became a catalyst. And I realized that I had learned so much about what to do and not do and how to do it right. And I wanted to help other people make better decisions because I could see some of the advice I was hearing from friends and relatives that were toxic, things that they thought they should do because their cousin did it, and that's the way it's supposed to be done. And I realized that there were other perspectives. And so that's when I founded the Child-Centered Divorce Network. So that was years after the divorce. And then I became a divorce and co-parenting coach. And because my background was in writing, I started putting together several books and ebooks and courses and programs with the information that I had learned on how to break the divorce news to children in the most effective way, anger management for co-parents so that you learn how to control your anger issues, being positive in co-parenting so you co-parent as cooperatively as possible, etc. And it was very successful for me, but it was all because of that experience with my son, because I had never expected my life to turn in the direction it went into, becoming a divorce and co-parenting coach. And I am passionate about it because I feel this is the most important and valuable way I can contribute to the world in helping parents make better decisions so that their innocent kids have the best possible experience growing up despite the divorce.
Yes, I wish, well, I mean, wishing is stupid, but I see the benefit that I would have had I met you when I was in the middle of it all. Because like you, it took me years to get to the point that I said, okay, that's it. I just have to do it. Like, stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because there was so many things, that I had to really look at and understand. I get that, I didn't want to act impulsively. And I had beliefs and values that were important to me. And some of that was tied into marriage and my relationship and being married in the church and being Catholic and all these other things. So, it did take work. So, I could see what a great benefit you are to somebody has children and is looking at divorce right now, or in the middle of the turmoil and the chaos, trying to figure out what they should do. I see you as a great benefit to them to be able to share your experience and guide them.
And there's another facet to all of this that I discovered through my experience, and that's dating after divorce. That's a whole other universe that I've gotten into helping people, because we don't want to make the same mistake again and go through divorce number 2 and 3.
Yes.
And a large percentage of the population does that, because if you don't do the inner work and if you don't understand the changes that you have to make in your life, starting with the awareness, what do I have differently to choose a better partner for me? What lessons did I learn? And how should I approach relationships differently than I did maybe when I was in my 20s, now that I'm older? So there's so much to learn before you start dating and getting into a new relationship. And then when you have children, it's much more complicated, because you need to find a partner.
Yeah.
Your partner's not going to love your children instantly, but you want someone who respects children, likes children, wants to be a partner of someone who has children. And sometimes we don't find that out very clearly. It takes some testing of the waters to find out who's legitimate. And then we discover there's a lot of insecurities and jealousies. The kids feel very insecure and jealous about a new love partner in the picture. The ex feels insecure and jealous. We're trying to balance falling in love and feeling good about ourselves at the same time as being a successful parent, and making sure we're giving attention to the kids as well as the new partner. It's a very complicated area, and it also moves us into step parenting in a large percentage of the case. And as I don't have to tell you, that's hugely complex and challenging. So there's so many things ahead. I found that when I moved into being a divorce coach, it was the co-parenting side of it that is the most important side of it. And the moving on into other healthy relationships so that you're finding a healthy relationship for you and your children are in a healthy relationship with new people in their lives.
Yeah. I feel like, were you like a fly on the wall in my life? Like it's so true what you're saying. Like it's like my life. It's like the questions I had to ask myself, the things I had to go through, the people I had to reach out to get information from to figure that out. Yeah, it's very interesting. I would say that was a major reinvention. The whole process of coming to the divorce. At the same time, I had a business that I had raised $1 million in, and we launched the software. And so all these things were going on in my life. And it all started with this reinvention of really looking at my life, looking at what my value is, what my purpose is, what my passions are, what's important to me, what do I care about, and, making that the focus of what I'm going to do with my life and how things are going to go on, and trying to eliminate any kind of unwanted chaos, drama in my life, because I don't think that's necessary. And then when I went once it was over and we went through this transitionary process and a little bit of a healing process, I started to recognize actually how much that relationship actually influenced my identity and who I was. Like I never took that into consideration. I didn't realize, and I remember some of the reading I did that basically the idea is if you're in a dysfunctional relationship, you often end up becoming dysfunctional yourself. You end up picking up dysfunctional habits along the way because that's how you cope with a dysfunctional relationship. And I had to start addressing all that stuff. But man, what a journey and what a valuable thing. And, I certainly wanted to have fulfillment in all areas of my life. And that's what I worked on. And, for me, I would say like the number one thing that informed me was actually anybody who I was attracted to at that point in my life, I did not pursue. If I felt like if I was attracted to them, this is probably a bad thing, right? Because my chooser in my head, has always chosen this way, and I wanted to do something different. So don't be informed by what I think is the great idea. Don't let that influence me. Let's look at facts and data and information, and like you said, maybe some testing in there to test the waters and see how things work. But it worked out great for me. I'm so grateful. I have the best wife in the world. I don't know how she puts up with me working 14 hours a day.
That's wonderful to hear.
Yes. So I'm curious about some of the so like predominantly you only work with people who have kids.
Yeah, I'll refer clients to other colleagues of mine because it's a simpler process if you don't have children. And my focus is not the legal aspects because that's a very mechanical thing. It's the emotional and psychological facets that interest me, and that's what happens when children are involved. And children of different ages experience divorce differently. And as they grow, they're going to come into different awarenesses and have different kinds of questions. And so it's a lifelong experience. And that there are so many adult children of divorce who are scarred and wounded and are still trying to figure things out. And did I do something wrong? Did my parents do something wrong? How does this all play out? And what do I do in the future? And especially helping children of divorce when they grow up, make healthy choices in finding healthy partners, long-lasting love partners, and understanding what's really meaningful in relationships, because there's so much more than just physical attraction and sex and all of those things that when we're young become so important to us, and we don't understand the depth of what relationships are really about.
So the Children's Network actually supports the children also beyond the divorce. Absolutely. And beyond the parents. Okay, that's great. I didn't realize that.
Child-centered divorce network, but yes, definitely way beyond. And also the importance of grandparents and other extended families. Some people make the stupid mistake, I call it stupid, of cutting off relationships with grandparents because they're with the ex. Kids have relationships, love relationships with cousins and aunts and uncles, and suddenly to deny them these relationships, people don't always think long term about what they're doing when they make these decisions. Same thing with pets. It's very important for the children to be surrounded by the pets that are in their life, and that they're not denied access to that through the divorce. We just need to be very mindful when we make decisions that every decision has a consequence, and we can look ahead, especially since most people's divorce is not the only divorce. It's not unique. That, you know, there's so many people who've been through this before, and we understand better decisions and less smart decisions, and we could steer them in a path, in a direction that's going to be best for everyone in the family. And it's my goal for my clients to have what I call the happy ending I had with my son, for your kids when they're grown up to say, thank you. You handled the divorce so well. I really appreciate what you did, because you could have done it differently. And for you to be dancing at your children's wedding, or when you become grandparents, and have those experiences, and your ex can be there in the same room by your side, and no one's embarrassed, no one's angry. Everyone's enjoying the happy moments of life, because that's part of family life. All of those things are possible if we handle things in a mature, responsible way as adults. And that's what I'm trying to do, is talk to the parents at a tough time and say, make mature, responsible decisions, because in the long term, it's going to help you, and your kids are going to thank you for caring about them that way.
That's fantastic. You know, and you mentioned the law earlier, and my comment was that it seems to be in society that most of the people who talk about divorce are lawyers, and not people who want to help those going through it. And we don't hear a lot of messages about that. We certainly don't hear a lot of stories of people going through it, recognizing it's not your fault, it's not my fault, it just didn't work out, and having a good, sound relationship with the children, and not the chaos and the turmoil, not letting it affect them.
Yes.
So we need more positive messaging like that, because it is part of life. I mean, it happens 50% of the time.
That's right. It is part of life. And it doesn't have to be a negative part of life if it's handled well. So I've been very fortunate, because I've had some wonderful experiences with clients who, after talking to me, have changed the direction they were going to go in. What's unique about me as a divorce and co-parenting coach is that I like working with both parents together. So maybe one will get me initially and contact me, but I very often will say, can we talk to your soon-to-be ex, and can I get both of you on the screen together? And when I do, the first thing I let them know is that I don't side with either gender. It's not like mothers or fathers are better at this. Both make terrible mistakes. Both do wonderful things. This is not about gender. This is about the children. And I'm here to be an impartial support system to protect your children. And I just shake them both up. I say, you could do this, and the consequences are going to be A, B, C, or you could choose this path, and the consequences are going to be different. What do you want for your kids? You say you love your kids. Now, what decisions are you making? And I've had the good fortune of several times, one or both parents saying, I'm not going to tell the kids this terrible thing about their ex to make them hate their mother or their father. I'm not going to get into this crazy situation. I'm not going to do this custody thing that my cousin told me to do, because it's going to get back at her. Suddenly they're thinking differently. And if they start early on from the beginning and do it differently, the entire experience is different. They save money, they save time, they save aggravation, and they don't get into litigation in the courts. We choose mediation instead. We have a kinder, gentler process, and everyone walks away not worse enemies than when they started, but understanding that co-parenting is a lifelong experience. You can be co-parenting in your 40s, 50s, your 60s, your 70s. As long as you're alive, you're going to be co-parenting your children and have grandchildren and all of those wonderful things to look forward to if it's done in a positive way. And these are choices that you could make now.
Yeah.
So it's not 100% time, because there are some people who would rather fight and rather be right than be happy. But a lot of the time I could make a big difference in starting people on the right path. And they thank me for it down the road. And their kids thank them for it, which is really the blessing that I want for everyone.
It's great. Quite rewarding, I'm sure.
It is. It's very rewarding.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about a lot of things, and I really appreciate your time and your candor. We've had a great convo. Is there anything that I haven't asked you about that you want to talk about?
Well, I do have a free ebook on my website that I'd love for our audience to take advantage of. It's called Post-Divorce Parenting Success Strategies for Getting It Right. And if you go to child-centered with an ED, childcentereddivorce.com, right at the top of the homepage, you'll see a place to add your email address, and it'll be there for instant download. I have a ton of free articles and videos and podcasts and ebooks and e-courses and programs that are all available. Everything is very low cost because I want people to have access to these things. And I have one-on-one coaching services, packages that I put together. Everything is customized to your needs and your divorce, because no two people have the same situation. And so I do a complimentary session initially, so anyone can talk to me to see if I'm a good fit. And if I am, then I know that I'll be able to make a positive difference in your life and in your children's lives.
Yes. I'm very interested. I'm going to do some more research on some of the, get your ebook and stuff like that. I want to hear more, definitely. I'm going to put everything in the show notes for people to get that, and so we can get people connected with you and get some help and maybe get a free one-on-one to see if it's the right fit. But I think it's fantastic, and what I'd like to do is, let's keep communicating, and then maybe we can come back on the show again later and talk about some other aspects of this.
Absolutely. There's so much to talk about on so many levels. I'd be honored to, and I really appreciate your candor and the depth of your compassion and interest in doing this to help other families. That's wonderful.
Yes, absolutely. It makes my life worth living.
I know what you're saying. I feel the same way.
Okay, I will be in touch.
Terrific. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. For more information and monthly topics of interest, please go to transformyourfuture.com and join our newsletter.